I ended up aspirating in a bathroom. I collapsed on the floor in that bathroom. I started to vomit. That suffocated me and ended my life right there.
There was no heartbeat. And I'm just going to say that again. There was no heartbeat.
All of a sudden, I was above what looked like my body. I started to witness this experience, this life from a different perspective.
It wasn't until this rookie paramedic said, I know he's still in there. And he started doing the shock treatment.
I thought at first he must be God. He responded to me just direct to my consciousness. He said, no, son, I'm not God.
Darkness or light while you're on the other side.
Time is actually a toroidal field, but if you stay in it long enough, you end back where you started. I felt as if the universe wrapped around my umbilical cord and yanked me back. I was also crossing dimensions and crossing what felt like stargates.
Vinney Tolman, welcome on Just Happen, brother. What are you most excited about right now globally and in your life?
I am excited so much about our future as a species, as beings, as this planet is very excited about where we're going to go, whether we like it or not.
Whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting you started off with that because, well, we will give context. You had sort of a little bit of a tourist visa of heaven in 2003 when you were clinically dead for 47 minutes, in a coma for 3 days. But also while you were in that experience, while you were in the other side, you got a glimpse of what the earth would look like in 30 to 50 years. We'll go really deep in that today. But I wanted just to set the scene, set the stage as to what happened to you when you went on the other side. After taking this muscle enhancer supplement that you had from Thailand and then went to Dairy Queen. What happened up to that point?
Well, I ended up taking a very strong version of this supplement that I didn't know existed. And I ended up aspirating in a bathroom. So I collapsed on the floor in that bathroom, and while I was laying on my back, I started to vomit, and it was that vomit that suffocated me and ended my life right there. And that's where my story and my kind of the adventure begins for me. Is I thought that I was my body, and all of a sudden I was above what looked like my body, but I didn't think was my body anymore, because I was up above it. And I started to witness this experience, this life from a different perspective, and have my transformational experience.
And along the way, you were greeted by someone that called himself Drake. Who was that person?
So I thought at first he must be God. And as soon as I had that thought, he responded to me just direct to my consciousness. He said, no, son, I'm not God. And he explained that he was my guide. He was there to take me to go wherever I wanted to go, and I could go anywhere in the universe. And I felt so much love coming from this being, from this, I don't even like to call him a man because he was much more than a man. I felt so much love from him. And I asked him, can I go where that love is coming from? Because I knew that he was a conduit of that love and not the source of it. It was more powerful than you could even receive from a single being. And he said, yeah, that's coming from our home. And so he took me on this journey to go to our home. Yeah. And you know what in religion we call heaven or nirvana or Valhalla or one of these, higher vibrational spaces that religion talks about. And we started this journey to go home. And and I thought for sure that there would be some special door for my belief system that allowed me access. And that's when Drake, who ended up turning out to be my great 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 grandfather, um, on my grandmother's side, which I didn't find out any of that until 6 months after the whole experience was over. Um, but he began to hold, energetically hold my hand, and sometimes physically hold my hand along this journey of expansion and vibration, going to a higher love space and a higher love understanding so that we could go home. Yeah.
And before Drake could take you on into the, other side, heaven, there was almost a whole journey that you underwent, lessons that you had to learn before fully giving yourself over to this love. And then eventually, as we have you here today in the physical, come back into your body. What were some of those initial questions? I know a huge one had to do around authenticity that you were sort of led to in this understanding with your guide.
Yeah. Authenticity was taught to me by him, that to be the foundational principle for our existence here. That I know that it's a lot of us don't identify that, but when you understand why it's so important, you understand that finding out who you really are and allowing that version of you to exist here, you're able to grow and learn in ways that you can never do otherwise. And it's kind of like building a house of cards. It's easy to collapse that house of cards. And I thought for sure, I was only 25 when this happened. I thought for sure at 25 I was authentic. And he showed me that I had many different masks that I would wear no matter who I was with. And and he helped me understand that who I really was this almost childlike figure inside of all these masks, and that I wasn't putting up the masks because my friends, my loved ones, my family even were requiring it of me. I was doing it because I thought that's what they wanted. And he taught me how to put down my masks. He taught me how to love that inner child, that child that thought they needed to put up the masks. And in that space where I learned to embrace that version of me, or the authentic version of me, then we began our journey. But until I could even reach inward and identify that side of me or that aspect of me, I couldn't even move with him until I did. So that was where it all began, was embracing that authentic self, which is like a energetic 6-year-old, 5 or 6 year old. That's where we start putting up the masks, is about 6 years old.
So, would you say that who we really are is this energetic 5, 6 year old that then acquires more knowledge, wisdom, labels throughout our journey? And that energetic being is still there, even on the other side when we pass on?
100%. 100%. And if you look back at who someone is when they are that 5-year-old, that's essentially who we are in our heart. All along the way, we will grow up an adult bodysuit around that 5-year-old, but we're still that 5-year-old inside. That's the side of us that seeks to cope and seek love and seek identification and seek resolvement and seek fulfillment, is just that 5-year-old inside of us. That's who we really are. Yeah.
And I know there was a moment in your journey, which was actually, before we go into that, let me ask you, you were in a coma for 3 days. Before the medics showed up at the restaurant, it had already been about an hour and 47 minutes where there was no heartbeat. And I'm just going to say that again, there was no heartbeat. It wasn't until this rookie paramedic said, I know he's still in there. And he started doing the shock treatment. And then there was a heartbeat all of a sudden. How long did it feel that you were there on the other side? But in linear terms, it had only been 3 days.
Yeah, it's funny because time is a really funny thing. It doesn't exist. It really doesn't exist. Time is like a measuring stick for Earth or for Earth life. And I've talked to physicists about this, how I felt like it could have been weeks that I was on the other side, but I also feel like it could have been days, which it was days. In the linear time of things, it was 3 days that I was on the other side while I was in my coma. Um, but it did feel like so much longer than days. And at the same right, it felt uh, so fulfilling to be there even a moment. It's the hardest thing for our human to understand, is there's so much love energy on that other side for us, that whether it's 5 minutes or 5 days, it's just absolutely amazing. And it's worth this journey. It is. It's kind of a hard thing to have a human experience here. And a lot of the universe wants to do it, but not all the universe gets to do it. And there's reward for that. And part of that reward is this love that you meet as soon as you exit, as soon as you allow your consciousness to leave.
Hello, beautiful family. Quick one today. I just wanted to take a moment to thank each and every one of you that have subscribed to this channel. Your subscription means more than you know. Even though it's free, what you're doing is you're empowering a whole channel to be able to do this every single day and continue showing up in the way that we can with all of our resources on hand. Thank you for contributing to the growth of this channel, for sharing it with the people that you love, for creating a conscious movement of individuals that are seeking the sovereignty and the divinity of their soul. This is why we're here. And if you haven't already and you're enjoying this content, I invite you now to look below on that little button that says subscribe and welcome you properly to this community. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being who you are and being pure love and radiating that with everyone that you see. Back to the episode. When were some times where you felt something similar to that love that you felt when you passed over here on Earth? Where were some of those times where you felt that love, or at least gotten as close to it as you could?
Yeah, that love, it gets close to it, or you see a version of it when you have children, when you see your child uh, growing up and identifying and fulfilling the things that you've tried to help teach them. And still, though, it's just a small reflection of that love. There's nothing here, truly nothing, that is even a percentage of that love. That love's so strong that it's kind of like holding up a flashlight and comparing it to the sun. They're just vastly different. And our greatest experiences here are like the flashlight, and the sun is the love that we have over there. Yeah.
Beautiful. I know that Drake couldn't really take you on further in the journey until you understood why you came to this earth in the first place, why we choose to come here to this plane of existence. What were some of the things that he relayed to you that helped you understand why not just you, but all of us choose to come down here or up here, wherever it is in the multi-dimensional existence of these planes?
Yeah, we want to know um, essentially what it's like to be without our creator, and it's one of these interesting things where when we're with our source, when we're in our source space, we're in such synchronization, such syncopation to that love frequency. Anything that that frequency wants, we also want. And it's hard for us to distinguish self-identity at all. In fact, it's kind of like we're a molecule in the bowl of molecules there, and we want to have that separate consciousness to know what it is, and it's part of the experience of existence. But we can't do it while we're with source. We have to leave source and forget source, because the love is so strong that even if we remember source, it will influence so much of our life. So we have to come to this earth school, and that's what Jake called it. He says it's just a school. Earth is essentially like a grad school for souls. And we come here, it is one of the hardest schools in all the universe, in all existence. And we come here so that we can forget who we are and forget where we came from, and allow ourselves to have this blindness, this blind memory and blind vision to who we actually are, so that we can see who we are, so that we can see who we are as a collection of our choices, our decisions, our associations, the amount of love and reflection of that love that we can carry here. Yeah.
What makes this one of the hardest schools?
So in other schools, which there's a lot of other schools, there's innumerable. There's more schools than there are sands in the sea. There, in the other schools, you're light and you're dark, you're good, you're bad. Your duality is much tighter and closer. And from our earthly perspective, most other schools' bad is still better than our good. So that's the kind of the odd thing. Here on earth, though, what makes this one so hard is our good is so good, our bad is so bad. Our duality is so separate from each other and so opposite of each other that in earth, if you decide to go into the light, into your good side, you can be a purified being, making a huge influence on the world. But at the same right, you can be this good being on earth and still serve some of your shadows, still serve some of your dark side. Whereas in other schools, once you associate towards the light, you end up going like all the way into the light. Earth is one of the only places where you can be a really good person doing really good things, but also doing really bad things. And the soul learns a lot from having that possibility. And it doesn't matter whether we embrace that possibility, but having that possibility is what allows us to learn and grow so much. It's kind of like going into a gym where the weights are heavier than they would normally be in other gyms. And the rep or the repetition of lifting that weight, you have to lift it a lot higher than you would have to in other gyms. So it accentuates our ability to choose and our ability to associate towards darkness or light.
How did you understand good deeds versus bad deeds or darkness versus light as you're also perceiving from another perspective. I know that once you crossed over, you were shown all of the bad things that you'd ever done in your life from your perspective and the perspective of those that were influenced by those actions or words. How did you understand this difference between good, bad, benevolence or evil, darkness or light while you're on the other side?
Well, I understood it right away that both had very strong divine purpose for us. That, for some of us to embrace and engage our light, we first had to um, essentially be swallowed up in our darkness. And almost like the effect of the egg, right? We had to go into our darkness to escape that darkness and really embrace our light. And I saw that there was just as much power in our shadow as our light. And it was really important for us to feel the experience of both. And once we feel that experience, start to associate ourselves one direction or another. And I saw that some souls are coming here to associate towards their shadow, towards their darkness on purpose to help a lot of us others to associate towards our light, towards our love. And it's almost as if on Earth there's some volunteer villains that come here and they play the role that they're supposed to play. And I feel like there's a lot of that going on the world stage right now, that a lot of the villains that we see out in the world, they're volunteers and they're playing the role that they're supposed to play.
Definitely agree with you there. And one thing that really, opened my heart quite a lot when I listened to your story for the first time was, there was a moment where you started feeling this pull to come back, and the energy that was coming from that was a prayer from your brother. So it was almost like this brotherly love that, he was also transferring from the love that your mother had towards you infuse into that prayer that instantly pulled you back into your body. What does that say about the connections that bind us in this life? And if you were to walk us through viscerally that experience of being pulled back into your body, what was that like?
Well, after I was there for 3 days, and I didn't know I was there for 3 days, but I was there for 3 days, and I was in the middle of getting really excited about now this was going to be my new home or my return home. And as all that's happening, my guide, he came around and he said, Vinney, this is going to be very hard, but it's going to be worth it. And he put his arms around me. And to me, I feel it wasn't just a metaphor of what he was doing. It was like he was preparing me for the return back to my body. He knew I was going back. I didn't know yet. But as he hugged me, I felt the purest form of love that I have ever felt in existence. I felt a love that I didn't know was possible. I felt so much love, and as that love was being shared with me in what felt like a communion of light, I started to hear the prayer of my brother. And this prayer, it was supremely powerful. It commanded me to return to my body. It commanded me to make my body whole, to make it complete. And with that amen that he finished the prayer with, I felt as if the universe wrapped around my umbilical cord and yanked me back. And that's what it felt like. And as in that process, it did take a few hours. My brother had said that prayer at about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and I woke up at 1:11 in the morning. So there was a few hours into it, but I was also crossing dimensions and crossing what felt like stargates. It felt like I was going from this far off place, high vibrational space, back into this low vibrational space or existence on Earth. And as that's happening, I could feel all of these helpers. And, I couldn't see them directly, but I could feel them like going with me and helping me find my time. And that's what they did. They actually slotted me back into my time. And that time that they slotted me into was exactly 1:11 in the morning on January 21st, 2003, after I had, been found dead on January 18th. So it's like they really slotted me into this perfect time. And I now realize that we are all part of this quantum fabric, that anything that affects one of us affects all of us. Anything, good or bad. If it affects one of us, it affects all of us, in essence. And, I learned that so strongly by the prayer that my brother gave. I could feel his love for me, but more strong than that love, I could feel the love he had for my mom, and hoping that we could make this right for her, because she would be the one who would feel the suffering the most if she lost her son. Yeah.
What's your relationship with your mom now?
She's, she passed in 2017, so she's one of my angels. She is a big part of why she always told me, when she was alive, Vinney, you need to go out and share your story. People need to hear it. And since she passed, she's been sharing it in places I didn't know were even possible. And, one of the first messages she gave me after she crossed over is, don't worry about how, just show up. Just show up and be yourself, be your authentic self, and it's going to happen. And that's what I've been doing since. She had me sharing it the first time months after she passed, just actually weeks after she passed. So she was playing it, even in her crossing, playing a divine role, and still does. She plays a divine role. She's like the quantum fabric in our family, still keeping all of us kids together.
Wow. I love how you described it as they were slotting you back into your timeline, because I also know that when you were being slotted back in, you could see a huge timeline that also included our ancient past and our distant future. And so I want to really go deep into what that was like to be able to see such a big gap in the fabric of time, things that haven't happened in our present. You saw, we'll talk about this, but you saw future cities. You saw, the ways that the communities would behave between each other. You even saw different, let's say, versions of Earth in that future timeline. What was that experience like? If we could just go really deep into when you were being able to see this huge gap of time.
Well, what's really cool is time. I always imagine time was like a string or a line, that things would happen in the past on one side of the line and things in the future would happen on the other side of the line. But in watching how they had to slot me back into time, I saw that time is actually a toroidal field, which actually have an apple here to show like what a toroidal field looks like. A toroidal field is like an apple, where the energy goes around and goes in and it comes back up out the top. And that's what time is like. Time is this constantly revolving thing, but if you stay in it long enough, you end back where you started. So it's more of a loop than anything. And what you can find is what we consider our ancient past if we look properly, we can see it as our distant future too. So there's this really neat cycle about time, as time is kind of like a boomerang. If you're on the boomerang long enough, you're back around where you began. Um, there's just so much space in that time that most of us are crossing many possibilities, many existences by the time that time has come back around. But Earth itself is this divine tool. It's not just a school, it is a tool that allows the souls that go upon her to raise their vibration to such a space that they get to graduate with her as she has her own shedding, as she has her own separation of new and old, as she peels away an old shell and leaves that behind, her new shell that continues forward. We get to go with her if we keep our vibration high enough. And that's what part of this journey is on Earth School, is to be along for the full ride and to be with this Mother Gaia, this Mother Earth through this journey. And if we can hold on a little bit longer, not too much longer, we're going to see the beginnings of some of these cities happen, and may even be full citizens of these communities, these cities of light. But we essentially are in the middle of this complete shift right now, where we stop associating with governments, borders, and politics, and we shift more over towards light associations, energetic associations. And in those spaces, it doesn't matter what country you're from. It doesn't matter what political affiliation you've had in the past. What matters is how you treat each other, how you communicate to each other, how you commune to each other. And we start building communities of those associations in the beginning, and those communities become cities of light. Yeah. Meanwhile, the rest of the
And
world is kind of losing their stuff, but yeah.
yeah, let's go deeper into that split that you were able to perceive or witness. You talked about how Earth is in a graduation process, and that humanity is graduating with her as we choose to. And so when you were witnessing, you even said, I don't know exactly how long it was linearly, but it could have been anywhere in between 30 to 50 years in the future. Are you able to walk us through some specifics as to what emerged in those visions of what you were shown? And then we can also bridge the gap of how do we get there, right? How do we get to these magnificent, beautiful cities, heart-based connections? First of all, what did you see, and how do we get there?
Well, the first thing I noticed is the lack of infrastructure like roads, railroads, physical connections, connecting the different communities physically to each other. I noticed that didn't exist in the future, and that yet that infrastructure was there. I just couldn't see it. And the way that it functioned is, if you were one of these communities of light, you would have these special doors, and these doors would allow you to go to any other community of light on Earth. And that the same way that the neural network works in our brain, that these doors are neurologically connected to each other, so that with our intention and the right community energy, they function and form as gateways. And it eliminates the need for fossil fuel, essentially, for transportation. It eliminates the need for railroads, airplanes, all of that. We end up realizing that all along we've been able to move our consciousness with our intention and with our thought, and that was the most powerful mode of transportation, and far more powerful than jet engine fuel. It's like we've always known that in essentially the quantum field, but we're coming into knowing it better now and realizing it now, that it's our intention that allows us to move. And we can use that intention like a joystick, and we can move our consciousness anywhere in the world, anywhere in the universe, anywhere in the cosmos that we know to move it to. And that's what's really neat about these doors, is they function as not just intentional movers, but physical intentional movers. And each one of these communities of light has one. And we use them a little bit in the beginning, and then we will use them occasionally for like special events so that we can go visit other communities. But most of the time, we feel so uplifted and fulfilled in our local community that we're good there. We don't feel like we need to go anywhere else for our fulfillment. And that's a big part of that new space, is we start allowing ourselves to feel fulfilled without huge big accomplishments, without big earnings or big ownings. We truly believe that the Mother Earth is not owned by anyone, but also owned by all of us, and that we all own our stewardship with her, our companionship with her, and we start working with her instead of working against her or trying to take her resources. We become very supportive to her in her path. And that's a big part of the community, where we're shifting. If you look at humanity now, humanity is in a phase of consumption. We consume everything. We consume food, we consume energy, we consume electricity, we consume content, entertainment. We are constantly consuming. And if you were to look at what we look like energetically, we look like big mouths. That's it. We're constantly just trying to consume. But in that future space, we don't consume anymore. We absolve that need to consume so much. And we realized that all along, the whole reason we were consuming so much is because we felt emptiness inside. And we learned in those communities of light that when we can place our true value, our true existence inside of us, that we don't need to go and eat a bunch of food or consume a bunch of oil or consume anything. We can feel actual fulfillment off of existence, off of community living, off of serving each other. And in fact, some of us will feel so energized off of helping each other that becomes the new phase. And it's a phase of creation, where we embrace our creator inside of us. And instead of being this big mouth constantly consuming everything, we become this cornucopia of creation. Everywhere we go, we create. We create with our thoughts. We create with our hands. We create with our minds. It completely shifts us out of that wormhole of just consuming everything and going into producing things. And we do it just like Mother Earth. Mother Earth, she has both production and consumption, but she does it in balance. And we learn from that, and we become that. That is our path forward, essentially.
You were also mentioning how you foresaw this dismantling of governments, borders, and politics. What was the alternative that emerged for humanity in order to be able to let go of these systems that have been around for so long?
Well, the systems, they were built with very human infrastructures and supports. And in those infrastructures, they eventually start to collapse like dominoes. It starts with one, and then another, and then another, and then another, and then another. And before we know it, the entire financial system has collapsed. The entire government system worldwide has collapsed. There's some remnant governments left, but the people who associate to those governments, they are very much in survival mode. They're still in the old way. They're consuming everything, even to a point where I don't even like to describe what I see them consuming. It's not good things. And um, those people are very much in survival mode. And Mother Earth, she tends to help people like that exit. And so cities that are left, remnant cities, they get wiped off the map completely. Like they just don't exist anymore. And yet these communities of light exist, and not only exist, they persist. And I watched as I would see these communities of light not just maintain themselves, but grow in their vibration of love and vibration of light, so that it felt like heaven itself was now existing in that community. And so there was not a very big difference between life on earth in that community and life in what we would perceive as heaven, that they were very unified to each other in the way they existed. But yeah, there is still, for a period, for it feels like 10, 15, 20 years, there's these survival cities. They're very like Mad Max style, um, uh, dystopian survival spaces. And there's just lots of bad stuff going on there. I know that death would be easy compared to surviving in one of those cities. And the ideal, I feel, for all of us would to shoot for the goal of being in one of those communities of light, and do what we need to do in realizing we don't need to consume so much, and start asking ourselves, why do we feel we need to consume? I this last year I did a 36-day fast, and in that 36-day
What?
fast, yeah, I realized that
36 days.
food is a choice. We don't have to eat food. We don't. And I know that some people want to debate me or fight me on that. We don't. I went 36 days without food, and I did drink water and sometimes juices. But in 36 days, my body cleansed itself and healed itself of a major, major problem that had me in the hospital paralyzed. And our bodies are so powerful. And it took me to, remembering what I experienced in my experience that guided me into doing the fast. That I didn't need to eat, I didn't need to consume, I didn't need to be a part of the problematic system, and that I could be a source, I could be a creator myself, and start creating more than I consume. And that simple principle of creating more than we consume, once we get that 51% creation compared to the 49% consumption, it's this principle inside of us where all of a sudden we feel more fulfilled, we feel more happy, we feel more successful than any other time in our life. And it's not because of what's in our bank account. It's not because of like what meal we ate or where we ate. It's because of what we're watching come through us as conduits of creation. Because that's what we are. We're pieces of source. We're made to create, not to consume. Consumption is the old chapter of our life. Yeah.
I know that you also mentioned that what is it? Geographically, the Earth had shifted quite a bit, and I know this is not about any type of fear messaging or doomsday approach to this, but how can you speak about the Earth changes while also anchoring us into this is the present moment. This is what we're living through. The Earth, you even mentioned pole shifts in some sort of scenarios.
Mhm.
What did you witness around the geographical shifts? I know that in the U.S. and specifically, you saw big changes as well.
Yeah, being from the U.S. and growing up here, I a lot of my energy stayed on the U.S. as far as understanding and seeing all of this. I know that Europe changes too, China, India, Russia, all of that area changes, but I witnessed what changes in the United States. And the biggest change I saw is the United States itself is two continents and not one. It separates right down the middle at the Mississippi, what I would perceive as the Mississippi. And there becomes an inland ocean that goes all the way up to the Great Lakes. And now there becomes an eastern United States and a western United States. And then if I look to where some of these other spaces that I've lived and visited and gone in my life, they don't exist anymore. The entire city gone, even that part of the land gone. And it's not to bring up any fear in anyone, because what's really neat about our soul contract, about being here on earth, we're just as happy to take our exit point as we are to listen to an inner voice help us navigate to a safer space. We're just as excited. Our souls are excited both paths, whether we are exiting in one of these transitions, because what the soul's path is to do is, if we are one of the early exiters or the exodus leaving in waves, then those souls are coming and helping a lot of the community builders and working side by side with the community builders. So there's not a bad path for us. And it does look scary to our human flesh. It looks really scary, that all this stuff looks scary, but it's not scary because we know what it leads to. We know this high vibrational space where humans exit the consumption phase of existence and they finally get into the production or creation phase of existence. And being a component of that, being a part of the engine that helps create that, is a big deal for all of us. And we're so distracted by our own consumption of everything. We think that's what we're made to do, and we're not. We're not made to do that. We're not built to do that. We can do that, but we're not built to do that. And part of understanding this future is associating with a voice inside of us. We all have one. We all have an inner knowing, an inner voice. And the better we learn to listen to that, we will be able to navigate this and be in the right place, the right space to not just survive, but to thrive. And thriving becomes far more important than surviving. Because on Earth, it gets to a point where just surviving is not good enough. Like, we need to thrive. And that's part of our future in these communities, is to thrive in these spaces of light.
Another thing that excited me of what you saw was the crystal tablet technology. Uh, what can you tell us more about that?
Well, in those communities, we remember how to speak to elements. If you go to a lot of the ancient sites on Earth, you will see stone masonry that doesn't make sense. You'll see these large, huge stones that it doesn't feel like it's humanly possible that they could be placed and chipped away and masoned into each other and jointed the way they are. And the reason why is because we forgot in our ancient past. Our ancient ancestors used to know how to speak to the stone, and they would ask the stone to become the shape that it would become. And that's why you have these megalithic structures that look like they were asked to exist and not masoned to exist or cut. And that frequency, because it is just a frequency, it's a vibration. Nikolai Tesla helped us remember that. I feel personally that he cracked some of those vibrations, those frequencies, and that's why he was held under lock and key. But we remember how to speak to the elements, and part of that speaking to the elements in the building of these communities, we don't just show up with bulldozers. We actually come to the land. We work with the land. We ask the land, is this a good space that works for the land? And when we get yes, we start building there. And we build around this principle of communion. And in doing that, the land itself reacts to us. And as we create, the land also creates. And so in these special spaces, crystals form. And some of these crystals are so connected to the quantum field that we can hold a tablet in our hands. And this tablet can connect to any time, any space, any dimension, any world. And it runs off of our vibration. It runs off of our intention. So as we're sitting there holding this tablet, it's kind of like what people call the coronavisor, or these special tools that allow you to see anytime, any space. And as we hold them, we can witness history, ancient history. We can witness prehistoric history if we want to. And we can even take the tablet and we can oscillate or change our vibration and become part of the tablet for a few minutes while we experience that other time, that other space, as if we are there, and we are there. In the weirdest way, these tablets work like a quantum network. And because they're part of the quantum field, it allows us to plug into that field and be anywhere in the universe. And so when we have loved ones that we want to be there for, like a graduation or for some special service that we want to see, we will gather around these tablets. We'll all hold the tablet and we oscillate with the tablet. And all of a sudden we're all there. We're there at that special space, witnessing that special event. And it is hard for our human to understand this. And when I first saw it, I was like, that's a magic tablet. And over time, Spirit showed me it's not magic. It's the quantum field. These tablets are fully plugged into the quantum field, and they are omnipresent the same way that Source is omnipresent, and our consciousness is omnipresent. It's the same field. They just assist us in helping us move our consciousness even quicker and faster. Yeah. Instead of, meditating for months, we're able to utilize these tools, but these tools come from the earth. And, there's ancient mechanisms inside of our earth right now that were put there millions of years ago. And those mechanisms open back up as we create the communities of light, because the communities of light are like a special code for Mother Earth to help her open up these ancient tools. And we're not vibrationally ready for those tools yet, so we don't get to have them, not yet. But as we embrace these communities, as we embrace and become part of these quantum communities, we watch these tremendous tools open back up and become access, not just physically, but consciously. Like they become operational because we remember how to use them, not because we learn. We remember in the conscious field how to use some of these ancient tools.
One thing I'm really curious about, and even studying glimpses of the ancient civilizations that are lost in many ways, is this otherworldly assistance that they would allude to, specifically during the construction of the pyramids in the times of Lemuria, Atlantis. Is that something that comes back around as time is in a spiral? Will we begin to have otherworldly presences, beings living amongst us in the future that you witnessed?
Well, here's the weird thing. We have that now, we just don't perceive it. We're not perceiving it, but it's happening right now. A lot of us look around, they're like, where's the aliens? Where's the aliens? We'll go find a mirror. Go look in a mirror. There's the alien. You're the alien. Like all of us are aliens in a way. And it's because Mother Gaia was existing far longer before consciousness existed here. And so we as consciousness are part of the alien force. And our ancestors, our offspring are some of the visitors that are coming and checking in on things. But what we don't realize too is because Earth School is such a precious space, there's DNA that has been brought here from all over the universe, and it's been placed in the test tube of Mother Earth to see what will happen with that DNA, to see what will happen with the possible duality that we find on Earth. Because in their own home realms, there's not the duality that we have here. So they very much want to observe what's going to happen with that duality, with that DNA in this duality here. So there's a lot of the universe that's observing Earth right now. And they've been observing it for the longest time. But what's happened is governments and political organizations have prevented us from even knowing our ancestors, even knowing our guardians, our guides, our protectors. They have always been there. I mean, there's countless videos that you can find all over the internet of meteors coming in and about to strike Earth, and then an orb appears and the meteor lifts up and it doesn't strike Earth the way that it was going to at the same trajectory. Like those protectors have been in place since before we could start counting time. So it's those visitors are here. And what we finally wake up to is we don't need to jump into a rocket ship to go talk to them. We can go into meditation and you can talk to angels, and we could even call angels aliens if we want to. They're not, but they're, our ancestors would call something an angel. And if that being was here today, TV cameras would show up and start calling them aliens, but they're not aliens. They're just part of us, that we're part of that quantum consciousness, that quantum field that we can all plug into right now and talk to right now. But we have to stop consuming to realize that we can do that.
Do you still talk to your spirit guide, Drake?
I do. Yeah, I work with Archangel Michael every single day. I work with Drake almost every day. I work with teams of spirits in what I do, helping people and helping my own family. It's a weird thing for my old self to think that I would do, but I do. I work with spirit, angels, ancestors, guardians, guides every single day, and they're there whether we perceive them or not. So we might as well try to perceive them and start working with them, because they want us to have the best possible way forward. Because as we save ourselves, we also save them. We are bringing salvation to all as we help each other. And they want that. They want us serving each other and creating for each other. And, one principle that this universe, if you can understand this one principle, it'll change your life. That if you wake up and feel that you're missing something in your life, go give something to someone else. Go find out
Yeah.
what someone else is missing and give that to them. And watch what happens inside of you. The emptiness is gone. What you're feeling is missing is now fulfilled. And that's the beauty of the quantum field, that we can't actually fulfill ourselves by ourselves. We have to connect to each other and fulfill each other. And that's where we find self-fulfillment, is by fulfilling others. It's very much the Christ principle. What we do unto others, we end up doing to ourselves, in a positive way, but also a negative way.
Hmm. Vinney, it's been 23 years since you had your near-death experience. It's been since 2017 where you started sharing it more publicly. You've been on over 300 of these interview shows. I'm really curious if there's been a detail from your experience that you've intentionally left out through the years because you felt that people weren't ready for it before, but now we are.
Yes, the biggest detail is that we walk with angels now, and that the angels that the world has been looking for is us, each other. And it's time for us to wake up and be the angel that your neighbor needs. And as we embrace this new mode, this new chapter of life for us, we will watch miraculous things happen. And as we allow the consciousness of the Christ, or the legacy of the Buddha, or the teachings of the ancients awaken inside of us, we will end up watching these great leaders come back to this space, to this earth space. And we'll realize that when they're finally here, we don't need them because we've become them as a collective and as an individual.
You talk about also how on the other side you understood that we have a magic wand here on this earth, and that is the power of our thoughts and our intentions. And so, what is one thing that you do to cultivate or sharpen the quality of your thoughts so that when we move over to another existence after this lifetime, we can truly harness the power of our thoughts and also learn how to do it while we're still here?
Well, Spirit is always working with me on that. And it's so very easy for us to get distracted by the show. It's so easy for us to get distracted by what's in front of us. But we are not the thoughts that are in our head. We are either the holder of those thoughts or the releaser of those thoughts. So on the very simple basis, if you don't like what's going on up there, release it, let it go, and invite positive in. Seek out positive content if you are consuming content. If you're creating content like Emilio, you're freaking amazing, man. Create that positive content. And, we are all Emilios. We are all creators. We need to be. We're built to be. And we find our greatest fulfillment in creating. And as we learn to hold the power of creation, which is our thoughts, if we think positive things long enough, positive things start happening. If we think negative things constantly, negative things constantly happen. It's so simple. Choose to hold the thoughts that you want. And if you don't like the thoughts that are showing up, choose to think other things. Go seek out other things. If you are severely depressed, go serve other people and watch how you feel afterwards. It's such a beautiful thing that with our thoughts we create. Our thoughts do create. And understand that The self-deprivating thought is the most destructive thing on the universe, because people that hold those self-deprivating thoughts, they go out and do bad things to each other. And we don't need to hold those thoughts anymore. To me, that's part of the old chapter of hating yourself while you try to convince the world to love yourself. We can't do that. We have to start loving ourselves. We need to start loving our light and our shadow. And what we find is our shadow gets less and less as we love it. As we lean into our inner light, we realize that there is no shadow anymore, that we are the light. We get to be the light as we serve and care about each other.
Mm. And Vinney, I know that it wasn't easy for you coming back into your body after touching a sliver of source of all that is. I know that coming back, you did have a lot of these self-deprivating thoughts. And you even said in a previous show that you contemplated suicide to get back to where you came from, where you were, but you knew that that would mess things up. I'm curious to know a little bit deeper what you meant by that, that by taking your own life, you would mess things up, with the understanding that you had of the other side.
Well, my spirit team showed me that whatever I felt I was running away from, I wouldn't be able to run away from. So if I was going to kill myself because I didn't want to be here anymore, I would force myself to go face what I didn't want to face. So I might as well face it now. I might as well face the hard thoughts, the hard things now, and allow myself to experience those things, but don't hold the hard things. Let go of them. And just like a breath that is short or a breath that is full of smoke, we can let that breath go, and it makes space for the new breath. And that my suicide ideation or pursuance was something that I needed to let go of so that I could embrace what was next for myself. And I did want to go back. I wanted, at whatever cost, I wanted to go back. But once I learned that me doing that, I was going to still have to face what I didn't want to face, I learned just to face down my monsters now. And my monster was loneliness. I felt so plugged in over there. And I learned a lot from that loneliness. I learned that we need each other. I learned that I needed family. And since my experience, I have two absolutely freaking amazing kids, 16 years old and 5 years old. And I have an amazing wife, a twin flame, a soul partner that, I don't deserve her for sure. And it's like, I have all
Yeah,
of
you
that
do.
because because I stuck around. I stuck around. And so I have all of that. But even those things are not all the reason why I stick around. I stick around for every breath, for every thought, both good and bad, both sad and happy, because I know for a fact I wanted this existence so bad. I waited in line for it. And I'm not going to waste my opportunity here. I'm going to use the joystick of my thoughts and choose to create good things. I'm not perfect at all. I still am very human. I get upset here and there and about the
Of
dumbest
course.
little things. But then I remember who I really am. I take a deep breath and I step into the future with a new energy and a new thought.
Speaking to this loneliness, when you were on the other side, obviously you were accompanied by your spirit guide Drake. I'm curious to know if you met other beings along the journey, apart from just Drake.
So Drake was the primary one I met. I could feel consciousness, what I would call God. I could feel that in the grass, in that heavenly realm. I could feel it in the trees, the flower, even the flowers, even the water there. I could feel this supreme loving consciousness. But it's the same thing I can feel when I plug into souls here, though. I can feel God smiling at me when I go serve someone here. It's really a neat thing if we open ourselves up to it. But it was primarily Drake until I was being brought back to my body, and I was seeing all of these beings to my side, both left and right and behind me, like helping me back into my space and my time. And then I did see a whole lot of angels, not ones that I knew at the time. I've later learned some of their identities or frequencies. And the angels are essentially the only other thing I saw while I was there, as far as what you could call consciousness that's idealized as a being. The rest of it, it was just this beautiful fabric of love. Everywhere was this fabric of love, and I'm very excited about the future of Mother Gaia, that she becomes that fabric of love that we get to plug into in our existence here. That we don't need to cross vast distances for heaven. We get to invite heaven to exist first here in this temple, and then in this temple, and then this temple, the existence. Yeah.
I'm curious to know, while you were on your journey with Drake, you had a lot of questions, and he was helping answer the questions along the journey. Was there ever a question that never occurred to you to ask Drake, but then you had once you gained back your human consciousness, you remembered your identity, you remembered that you were Vinney back in his body, that you wish you would have asked him while you were there?
Yeah. I wish I would have asked him why I was being sent back. That took me a bit. That took me a while to figure out. And, it took me years to figure it out. But as I figured it out, I realized why I wasn't told why. Yeah. So it's like, it's one of these things where we get that 2020 vision when we look backwards. And would it have been a gift or a punishment to know why I was coming back?
Mm.
And I think it would have definitely been both. But that's why the punishment would have been pretty harsh for me. I I thought right away that I would be back in heaven very soon. But at the same time, I also saw this far distant future, and somehow I was existing there. But in your human, I'm thinking, wow, Earth's going to change real fast in like 5 years. But it doesn't. It changes slower. But then when changes do happen, those changes do happen fast.
Yeah. So why did you come back?
Well, I had to have a I had to have a knowing at some level of my consciousness that approved of coming back. And from my perceived consciousness, I couldn't reach to that part of my consciousness yet. It wasn't until many years later, after I had learned to meditate and learned to really bring oneness into myself, and allow that oneness to exist and to be held inside of me. Then I started plugging into a part of me that I realized did choose to come back. I found that part of my consciousness, and I asked, why was that choice? And then I see my kids, I see my wife, I see all the people I've shared my story with over the years. I see countless people who have connected to my story and chosen to not kill themselves. And I see those as the little reasons why I did. And there's bigger reasons. And those bigger reasons I'm still figuring out as I go. But I am glad I came back. I am. It was very hard. It's truly the hardest thing. And anyone else who has been to that side and they've come back, they'll tell you the same thing. It's the hardest thing that you'll ever do if you ever have to do it. It's not something you want to wish on yourself. Don't ever wish that you have a near-death experience. You don't want one. You don't want one, because if you understand the price that you're going to pay to have one, you realize that it's the hardest thing you will ever have to do in your life. There's no harder thing. No harder thing. Because you essentially get to have this human suit released and get the freedom to know who you really are, and then step back into the prison of the human. That's the hardest freaking thing to do, man. But what saves a lot of us who have had these near-death experiences is meditation, is allowing that consciousness to have the freedom to get back out of the human. And that's what meditation is for some of us, is it's the ability to go back and play, go back and experience. And some of my meditations, I actually go back and I spend time in heaven. I do it all the time, actually. It's one of my sacred spaces that I go. And, you could call it the quantum field. You could call it the Akashic or the Akasha. You can call it what you want, but it doesn't change the fact that it's the place I already visited once. And I visit it all the time in my consciousness as medicine. I do it as medicine to help me remember why I'm here, why I endure, and why I keep showing up for those who need me to show up.
Do you go back to the waters of heaven a lot?
All the time, man. Those waters, oh my, oh, there's it's so hard for us to understand. There's nothing here on earth like them. Nothing. And when I was in that space, water approached me, and it touched my toe first, and it asked, "Do you want us on you?" And I said yes. I was so excited about everything in heaven. I said yes. And I watched that water come up over me. And as it encapsulated me, as it completed and covered me, I felt it take every little crack, every little tear, every little bit of damage that this world had put on my soul. And I'd had a pretty, very traumatic childhood. It went and filled every single one of those gaps. And it helped me feel completed. It helped me remember who I really was. And as soon as it was done, it was done. It went back down off of me and went back down into this little creek, this little stream. And, I realized that we are that water. We are that living water. And that's why we're supposed to work together. That's why when we serve each other, we get the benefit. That's why when we give to others, we're the ones who walk away feeling fulfilled, is because we are that living water. And it's time for us to wake up. In many sacred books, it says, watch the water. And that's what they're talking about. We are the water. We're the containers of the water. We're the holders of the water. We are the consumers of the water. Watch what we do with our water. Like it's very important that we learn. I mean, obviously, clean drinking water is awesome and vitally important. But watch what we do with our energy, with our waters, our living waters, because we are that living water.
There's one thing that was still lingering about the future for me, and that was when you describe splitting into these societies of consumerism and then creators into these societies of light and then the societies that are really stuck in their ways of consumption, are those societies living simultaneously on different vibrational scales? Is that why they don't seem to interact with each other, or what is the reason there?
Well, it's like the survival cities are at such a low vibration that someone from a survival city can't even find the cities of light. Like they must find that city of light inwardly first before they can find it outwardly. And I saw it as if someone have you ever witnessed the Celestine prophecy, where
Yeah.
people of a low vibration are trying to seek the community of high vibration? They can't even see it. They could be in the middle of it and not see it, because it's literally existing at a vibration that's so far away from where their consciousness is. They can't even see it. And that's happening now. It's happening now. Go out in any major city. You can walk up and find someone who feels like they're living in hell. You can find someone who feels like they're living in heaven. And it doesn't have to do with their consuming. It has to do with what's going on up here.
Mm. Yeah, that got me contemplating, like, what if there are already cities of light existing, and as our consciousness is raising, we will begin to uncover whole civilizations that
Yes.
are coexisting, commingling with us right now.
Shambhala.
Shambhala.
That's one of them.
You been
We will
there?
witness we will witness masses of beings seeing and experiencing the same thing as each other in a very high vibrational space, and then eventually all of them visiting there and staying there. And that's part of us getting prepared for these communities, is we will see some of them. We'll see some of the large ones exist before they exist, because there's no such thing as time. It's all vibration.
Have you been there?
In mind space, yes. In consciousness space, yes. And to call it a city of gold is to downgrade it. It's a city of golden light. It is. And it's a space
Wow.
that, using your intention with meditation and breath, every single one of us can go there, but we can't go there while we hate ourselves. It's impossible. We have to learn how to love ourselves, and then we can go there.
Hmm.
Love is the magic force. Love is the lifting force. Fear or self-hatred is the gravity to our soul.
Vinny, we're going to have to call this volume 1 because there's
Sweet.
still a lot to
Oh,
cover,
dude, there's
and
so
I'd love
much.
to
Yeah.
go way deeper with you, brother. And I feel like this was a really good first step into just uncovering the mysteries together, brother. And I really, really appreciate your time. We end every podcast with a segment called the Final Trio. Just some questions we ask at the very end. But before we get into that, I would love to know where people can connect with you, where they can find you. For those new to your work, also what's upcoming in your horizon. If you'd like to mention where people can go and find you there.
Well, I'm a healer. That's what I do. I teach and I heal. I help people heal themselves. I don't practice any kind of medicine other than I help people heal themselves, and that's what I do energetically. And I teach people how to do that. And people they can find me at my nonprofit. It's called livinggodslight.org. Again, just livinggodslight.org. I am going to set up my own URL of vinneytolman.com so that I have all my other projects there, because I'm tapped into probably 30 or 40 different projects at any given time. And I want a unified space where people can go and access that if they want to. So I'll be getting that set up here in the next little bit. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Please send me the link to all of those when it's out, the new website, and I'll also link everything below that you just mentioned, brother.
Sweet.
The first question I had for you in the final trio is, if the Vinney who died at 25 met the Vinney sitting here today, what would surprise him the most?
That he's so happy to be here. Because the Vinney at 25 years old was so upset about coming back. He was so upset. Now, if I met the Vinney before he died, that Vinney would not recognize this Vinney. Not at all. Yeah. That Vinney was very much the world Vinney, and very focused on what the world says is value and not what is actual value. Yeah. But I'd hug him. Beautiful. Either one I'd hug.
Not just the human hug, the hugs from the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, I call it the Drake, the angel hug, right? Like the Archangel Michael hug. Yeah.
What's one beautiful quality about being human that even heaven can't experience in quite the same way?
Well, something that we are envious of in heaven that we get to have on earth is loneliness. And that seems weird, I know. But there, we're so plugged into love, it's impossible to feel loneliness. But in loneliness, it's like shining a flashlight on who you are. It lets you see your dark bits and your light bits. It lets you see who you are. And that simple loneliness is very powerful in understanding who we are individually and then collectively as well. So who we are on our worst day represents who we are. And earth life, it lets us see our worst day as well as our best days. And that's envious to souls. They want to know. It's kind of like playing in the ink as an artist. If all the canvas is white, you're envious of those who can dip in the ink and paint. It's because it's the duality that allows you to know the value of the light. It's the darkness that gives power to the light. And it's one of those things that the soul really wants to experience. That's why souls line up. They want to come here. They can't all come here. Not every soul that wants to come here gets to come here. It doesn't happen. We have to go through quite a bit of navigating our own energetic gauntlet just to get here. So the fact that we're here, make it count. Make every breath count. Make every thought count. Don't waste them. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your thoughts. Don't waste your breaths. Utilize them. Program them with your intention. And do great things. That's why we're here.
Beautiful. The last question I have for you today, because I know we'll have many more down the line, but it's a little bit of a rhetorical question. And that is, what is one question that you wish I would have asked you today?
That's awesome. That's a really good question. thinking about that, I feel that I feel the mouth is closed, like there's not one. You've already asked beyond expectation, beyond human expectation. I feel that when I plug into that question, I go to the voice of source, the voice of creation. That's the one thing that when we start putting better thoughts in our minds, we start awakening that voice inside of us. And that's going to be a thriving force. That's going to be a surviving force for us as we learn how to do that, as we learn and embrace that process of awakening the voice of light inside of us, because we are that light. And it was not a question that needed to be asked, because it was a vibration that is held, and a vibration that you carry, that I carry, that we carry, that probably a lot of your audience carries. So choose today to awaken your light, to lift it with the love.
The weirdest thing that's happened is that when Vinney and I booked this episode, we both thought that we had already recorded an episode together. And in fact, this was our first human time recording an episode. But since the very first minute of our conversation, brother, I could feel the soul resonance in you, the heart and the authenticity with which you do this work and show up in the world. And that is something that whenever I see it in someone else, I'm filled with joy, because really authentic people is hard to come by. And I appreciate you so much, man. All the love. And I know that this is just the beginning to many more beautiful, mystical, esoteric conversations together.
Yes.
So thank you so much, man.
Thank you, Emilio. Thank you for what you do, man. And thank you for hosting this again for the first time. It is the craziest thing how time works, but I do feel there's destiny behind all of us light workers, and that we didn't just volunteer together. We volunteered to reconnect, to rekindle, and to recommune at these times and spaces that we're doing it. And that all we're doing is playing the roles that we already forecasted, that we already orchestrated. And that's what it feels like we were doing today, my brother. Thank you for being you. And thank you for being this beacon of light in a world of distraction. Thank you for being an uplifting force of love. Seriously, thank you, bro.
All my love, brother. Thank you.